Hello, welcome to Real Talk. My name is Dalton Mersinger. It's nice to meet you. Who am I though? I'm the guy that you're gonna be glad that you're listening to this right now because you're here in the beginning. You're here in the beginning of an amazing climb to the top because I'm gonna be at the top. Just wait. But who am I? Where did I even come from? Well, here's my testimony. Here's my story of how I came to God and how I started making content. I always grew up in the church. Both my parents, my dad was a Catholic, and my mom was more of a Protestant. And my dad went to catechism and that, and he grew up not really liking the Catholic Church because of some of their traditions. So he ended up coming over to my mom's church, which was a Church of Christ, so more of like Protestant denomination. And that's the kind of church that I grew up in. And I was at that church for many years. And I knew I didn't really know exactly who God was. I went to Sunday school quite often. I got to hang out with my friends, so it was pretty fun. But I always just got told the stories and stuff. I mean, I knew Jesus died on the cross. I knew the story of Moses. I knew about Noah's Ark. I knew like the basic things, but I didn't really understand the depths of it. I didn't understand how important it was and what it actually meant. I didn't really understand that God actually talks to you, that he actually like cares about you that much. I didn't understand that at all. And it was like that for me for years. It was kind of annoying in a way, like, oh, I gotta go to church this Sunday. I didn't fight it though. I went because my parents wanted me to go, so I would just go. And I went through confirmation too, and I guess that helped me a little bit, but I still wasn't really in it. And then by the time I got into middle school, I was still I still didn't really understand God. I didn't understand the importance of it still. And I was so worried and just concerned about what was going on in the world. I didn't think about God that much throughout my day. I mean, I would be in a routine of praying before I went to bed every night. It was kind of like a routine type thing. I would just say the same thing every time to him before I went to bed. But I didn't really have that relationship with him. And I didn't really know who he was. I was too worried about what was going on in my daily life and my temporary life, which is right now. And it wasn't until high school that I really understood it. But for my content stuff in middle school, all throughout, I mean, my childhood, I always watched YouTubers. I really looked up to them. I always wanted to make content so much. I wanted to make stuff. I liked the idea of having this community of people that cared. And it was so interesting that people would watch you and stuff. And like, I don't know, it was just so cool to me. So I started trying to make skit type videos with my stuffed animals in middle school. And of course, I got messed with for it. And it kind of bothered me. So then I ended up getting mad one night and I deleted them all. And I quit making those for a while. But then during COVID, I made a few stupid TikToks that I just ended up giving up on because randomly I had a spurt of, I want to be a TikToker. I want to be whatever. How did Charlie D'Amelio get up so high like this? So I just started making random stupid stuff. But then I gave up on that in like a few days. And I wasn't really consistent with it. But then a lot of things happened this past year, 2023, in high school. Fast forwarding to that would be, yeah, early my senior year, on the end of my senior year now. But I ended up finding God a lot more. I had a lot of struggles. I had a relationship that ended. I had some friendships that kind of got put on hold for a while. And I just kind of had a big waking up for my life. And I realized that throughout all these things, throughout all these struggles that I went through this whole time, God was with me consistently. That was the consistent theme. He was always there with me to pull me out of whatever there was. And I can dive into those a lot deeper in the future. I'm going to dive into these stories, but I'm just kind of doing an overview of my testimony in this. So I was making some gym videos, some gym TikTok videos, because after these things happened, I I wanted to change things about me. I didn't want to sit around. I didn't want to play video games as much anymore and just scrolling around on TikTok. So I don't know. I was just tired of who I was, being the same old, same old. So I started going to the gym, and then I just kind of got inspired to make some gym TikToks. So I made those for a bit, and then I got messed with for those. So then I didn't take them down, but I just stopped making those for a while, and I wasn't super consistent with it anymore because it kind of bothered me. And then through that time, I continued to find God more. I struggled with sin a lot. I kept going back to it and kept going back to it, asking for forgiveness and falling again and again until finally I just decided that I was tired of it and I knew there was more to me. I knew there was more to life and that I was a lot better than this. And there's stuff that I wasn't seeing of life yet. I wasn't seeing my true potential yet. And I finally was able to quit the main sin that I was struggling with. And I started getting some things that would pop up on my For You page or Reels or TikToks and stuff of Cliff. I think it's Senecal. I don't know. But he's very popular. Really great guy. I really like him. And another guy called George Janko. I started listening to George Janko's podcast because he had Cliff on there. And I got into his podcast a lot. And it really changed a lot of things and brought me closer to Christ. And then I started trying to read my Bible more, get more into that so I can understand the word. I read all the gospels, and then it started to click with me. I started actually having a relationship with God. I started praying to him more, and now I think about him throughout my days. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we're now like at the beginning, like January this year. I was making a bunch of POV, like skit type content stuff, but then I realized that it was just like brain rot type stuff. Like people would scroll to it, like it, and then move on. Like I wasn't making an impact. I wasn't actually connecting to people. And then I had a different account that I started actually before that one, where I talked about where I made advice type stuff and self improvement type stuff like I do now. And I was motivated to do that by one of my friends who said that I give great advice to him or so much. I don't know about that, but I started making that. So then I ended up quitting making the POV ones and then going back to that account and starting making those again. And that's where I am now. I make reels now too. I went over to reels and now I talk about Christ a lot and self-improvement and how to make your life better, but then God incorporated into it because you need God to have a great life. I'm going to be honest. You need to give your life to Christ to have a great life, a great eternity in the future, because your heart is always going to have a hole in it until you fill that hole with God. Nothing else can fill that hole other than God. But anyways, now at this point that I'm at, I'm so much more connected to God, and yes, I still have so much more to go, but I feel him a lot and he talks to me so much more now that I actually have a relationship with him and now that I know him. But I know my story is so common and I feel like so many other people have a story very similar to this. And that's why I tell it, because I feel like I can relate to you guys because we're not alone and we're not as different as we think we are. We're not all divided like they think we are. It may look like that on TV, but we have a lot more things in common than we have different. And my whole goal with making this entire podcast is to touch y'all's hearts, to help bring you guys to God, to help you guys understand him the way that I came to understand him. So I can bring you guys off the fence and into God's green pastures so that we can all be the best that we can and understand Christ and God's love. So I hope you guys stick around for the next episode and for future stuff that I do with this podcast. And I hope I can really resonate with you guys and help you guys to understand God. I love you guys. Have a blessed day. And thank you so much for listening.